Lift off. All right, so we're back, and sorry about that little interruption. You know what? I think what happened. One or two things. Here's my theory. Either I just heated up the airwaves so much that it couldn't take it. It was a truth and information overload, or, and this is probably what's more likely, the Illuminati heard me. They didn't want me getting this truth out. They didn't want me impacting the way people think. They didn't want to see the change. They didn't want Michael Jackson to spontaneously come up and say, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm going to make a change. They didn't want that to happen. So they tried to shut me down. But you can't shut me down. You can't stop this wisdom from flowing. Because just like everything and everybody we've been talking about, my voice can't be silenced. But seriously, this is the truth that we have. We have the opportunity to be like my friend and say, you know what? I know I don't have all the information. I know that I don't have all of the thought, all of the understanding. Not afraid to be wrong, afraid to stay wrong. I'm afraid not to evolve. I'm afraid not to grow in my thinking. I'm afraid to not let my messaging get greater and greater and greater. Because I believe that there's a purpose behind my voice, and there's a purpose behind who I am. And you know what? I believe that about every person out there. But I think if we get stuck in this one place, if we don't learn to listen better, to hear better. Again, I was talking about, on the way in, and on the radio, and they were talking about this politician and something they said, last week, and something that they said. And I'm definitely not saying it doesn't matter what you've done in the past, because it does matter what you've done and what you've said in the past. But you know what I would love to hear, when some of these politicians, or whoever, when it comes out and, well, they said this, or, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, when you were in college, you did inhale and then you said this, whatever that is, right? Here's what I want to hear them say. This is how and why I've evolved. This is why my thoughts have changed. Instead of trying to defend it or sideswipe it or sidestep it and deflect and say, oh, but the other guy, if you think I'm bad, look at this guy over here. That's a lot of the political conversation. Well, if you think that's bad, think about what this person did. Think about what that person did. No, it's not what I want to hear. Here's what I want to hear. Let me tell you how I've grown and how I've changed over the years. I'm better than I used to be. I can't run as fast. I can't jump as high. I can't run as long. But I can think a whole lot better. I can understand a whole lot more. I didn't have the wisdom then that I have now. I didn't have the understanding that I have now. As a young Marine being sent over to Saudi Arabia for Desert Shield and became Desert Storm, and then having to go from being on the border of Kuwait, on the border of Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, driving into Kuwait, and going in convoys and packing up POWs and bringing them back to have them dealt with appropriately, only in appropriate ways. On that first convoy coming back, something struck me that because as a Marine, it's in our songs, it's in how we talk, everything. Blood makes the grass grow. Right? One of our recently departed icons of our era, he said something so amazing. It says, God likes the United States Marine Corps because we keep heaven full of fresh souls, right? So this is the mentality. This is the training and the necessity of the training. Coming back in a convoy of 17 large vehicles, all packed with POWs. There was a moment that isn't necessarily the best moment to have in those circumstances, but it was the moment I had. And it was the moment that I looked at, the 50 men, enemy combatants, kind of, that were packed into the vehicle that my buddy Cook was driving and I was, standing guard over, and seeing, a couple of them throw up and all of them, look, really bad. And then all of a sudden this thought occurred to me. That guy there and that guy there, that's me. It's somebody's brother, son, uncle, friend, husband, right? And there was this moment of humanity that's not really appropriate in that particular situation that just kind of overtook me for a little while. And I honestly kind of got caught up in that emotion and had probably an inordinate amount of sympathy and humanity creep into that moment where that wasn't really the most important thing at that moment in time. Every moment has its priority, right? Every moment has the thing that's most important in that moment. But that one kind of snuck up on me. And I've never forgotten how I felt and how that impacted me at that time. And so then as a result, it made me think, and was part of this process of me thinking a little bit better, because, we put the enemy in combat in one classification. That's necessary because we want to come home, right? That's a necessary part of that business. We see things on the news. We hear all of these different voices. My question and my challenge to you today is, are we listening for the things that will help grow and change our thoughts? Are we listening for those voices of dissension? I posted something last week and it says, if you hear something and you disagree with it, research it. Now, I know people who do something like that, but let me just interject something before we go today. If you hear something you disagree with, if you hear a viewpoint that doesn't sound like the music that you normally listen to, doesn't have the same vibrations, isn't in the same time signature, not in the normal key. Pardon me. If you hear something that you don't agree with, research it, not just to prove it wrong. That's what scientists do about their own opinions, their own theories. They work to see if they can disprove it, because ultimately, if they can't break it, then nobody can. So do that with your own thoughts. See if you can disprove the things that you already believe. See if you can find holes in the convictions that you hold so dearly. Be a scientist on your own thoughts. But when you hear something else that you don't agree with, a different viewpoint, when you hear something that doesn't resonate with how you feel or how you were raised, go research it. Go research the people who think that way, who have the same level of conviction about what they think, believe, and feel. See if you can find some truth there that you didn't have. Because you know what that does? That makes you better. That makes you stronger. That makes you wiser. That makes you more intelligent. That makes you more holistic. That makes you closer to the perfection that we're all striving for. Or just remain in ignorance. Ignore the fact that now we live in a time where there are millions of voices out there, all speaking their truth, all speaking their conviction. And we have the privilege, the opportunity, the blessing to be able to hear those voices, to understand, and to be better at being humans in the time that we live in. Shame on us if we don't take advantage of the reality that we have, that we can know more, understand more, be better than anyone in all of time and all of history, because more is made available to us. So we can understand, if we choose to hear, if we choose to listen, I know some people celebrate the tradition of Lent, and that's coming up. We've got a Fat Tuesday party tonight. And you know what would be interesting? And I'll say this and then we'll bounce and get out of here. You know what would be interesting? Especially those of you that might be addicted to news or very extremely politically motivated. It would be interesting if you took the next 40 days, got out of your echo chamber, and only listened to ideologies and thoughts that were different than the ones that you brought to the party. My name is Urshel. This is Urshel Speaks. I believe in thinking for a change. I want to be the right man at the right time with the right words to change the world. We'll see you next week. Have a great day. Go out and make it an awesome one. God bless.